So me and Anya have decided to do our presentation on religion in Egypt, specifically Muslims and Christians. In the top right, you can see a pie chart of the ratio between Muslims and Christians. As you can see, Muslim to Christian ratio is very, very high. So why did we choose this topic? Well, both me and Anya know people that live in Egypt slash have an Egyptian background. One is Muslim and the other is Coptic Christian. Therefore, we're interested in how the minority Christians live in a predominated Islamic country. About 10% of Egypt's population are Coptic, and many say that state discriminates against them and does not offer them enough protection. So Anya's friend, who is a Copt who lives in Egypt, told her some Muslims bomb Christian churches and physically abuse Christians, trying to force them into becoming or marrying into a Muslim family. Whereas the person I know is a Muslim who lives in Egypt. When I asked him, he basically said that they make insensitive jokes towards Christian communities as well as racism towards Christians. Obviously, this wasn't from his perspective. He just said that he is aware that it happens a lot. After Anya told me about what her friend said, I further questioned my friend about the stories, and he replied saying, I can't say because I'd get my family in trouble, which obviously shows that him being a Muslim and his family being Muslim, they have done stuff in the past to these Christians that would not be just for him to tell me. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic we found.
You may be wondering why there is tension between Muslims and Christians. The Muslim conquest of Egypt took place in 639 AD during the rule of the Roman Emperor Heraclius. The Muslims implemented rules such as the prohibition against building new churches, the prohibition against rebuilding the destroyed churches, and prohibition against taking slaves who have been allotted to Muslims, and many, many more. The ruler would provide security for the Christian believers who follow the rules of the pact. This pact would remain in place for centuries. As you can imagine, when there are two religions with two contrasting beliefs, there will be conflict as they both want to be the true religion of the land. In the modern era, there are still struggles. The government does not officially recognize conversions from Islam to Christianity. The government also requires permits for repairing churches or building new ones, which are often withheld. The abduction and disappearance of Coptic Christian women and girls also remains a serious ongoing problem of being forced to convert to Islam and marry Muslim men. This is why Egyptian Christians can struggle living in a Muslim-dominated society.
So our first cultural item is a novel. The novel is written by Shady Lewis Botros, translated to Ways of the Lord. The novel is depicted to describe what it is like to live in Egypt as a Christian. The ending of the novel describes how the main character loses his engineering job and now works on a very small income. The author describes that the ending of the novel displays in a place like Egypt, religious minorities don't have many choices. Overall, the novel depicts the amount of control the state over religious minorities in Egypt, specifically Christians, showing that Christians have a hard time living under Muslim control. Which goes back to our point, very interesting from both my perspective with my friend and Anya's perspective with her friend, just showing that key difference of how dominated Egypt is with Islam.
Our second cultural item is a newspaper article. This online newspaper article by the Human Rights Watch describes how churches in Egypt were bombed on the 9th of April 2017 during Palm Sunday services, which are massive events for the religion of Coptic Christianity. The attacks resulted in at least 45 people being killed. The suicide bombings were claimed as the work of the Muslim extremist group ISIS, which many of you will have heard of. The newspaper article shows us the extent to which Christians in Egypt have to fear for their religion, and the article states that the police protection at the church gate was inadequate and may have allowed the bomber to enter. I interpret this as that Christians are still living under ruling to this day. I am going to be talking about two musical cultural items. This is because both are very intriguing as to how they approach the horrors of the bombings. The first cultural musical item is Dear Terrorist, which is a heartbreaking letter in the form of a song. The song is directed towards the mother of a Muslim terrorist that blew up a Christian church. The woman in the letter describes her losing her son in her arms due to the attack. It has a powerful message that no bomb can detonate the love for our Saviour. The woman forgives the mother of the terrorist as it has made the Coptic community stronger and the gateway to God and heaven easier. The second musical item is Welcome Home by Sandra and Stephen, which is a hymn about the church bombings mentioned earlier in the newspaper article. The reason I chose another type of music is because the Dear Terrorist is a letter made into a song, whereas Welcome Home is a hymn, and we felt although both are classed as musical items, they are very different and have contrasting approaches to the attack. When I discovered the hymn, I was taken aback by how forgiving and sincere the lyrics are, and it made me really think about how some people are able to look past the horrors and provide comfort.
So our fourth and final cultural item is a documentary. The DW documentary gives an insight of the life as a Christian Egyptian, otherwise known as a Copt. The documentary makes it evident that in 2017 it was the worst it has ever been, with 81 Copts being killed by Muslim attacks. Police surround the churches to be vigilant of the Muslim attack. Muslims use social media to harass Copts as they are foreigners, despite being the dominant religion in Egypt before Islam, which links to what my friend said also. It also gives a greater insight of day-to-day life as a Christian in a dominated Muslim country. Personally, I think this is the most insightful cultural item as it gives a visual evidence of the horror Christians have to live through. I will now show a clip of the documentary.
This year has been the most violent for Christians in Egypt in a long time. A series of extremist Islamist attacks have killed 81 Copts. Mohab Fazi's children are unaware of the extent of the terror. He's hoping it stays that way. The danger is ever present. Soldiers and police guard the gates of large churches and monasteries, like this one in Sohag in southern Egypt.
To conclude, each piece of media we have shown today widens our perspective of the global south and the issues still around today. As a Western culture, we don't really see this stuff in the media, especially the church bombings. Christian Egyptians, Copts, are constantly at risk for practicing their religion due to the dominance of Islam in Egypt. All the media suggests that terrorist attacks on Christian churches are common and it is a worry for Copts' day-to-day life. Although Egypt is an Islam-dominated country, is there something that should be done to help the Copts? I thought I'd put this question in there for you to take away, to decide, or maybe even just think about, is there anything we should do? Because as a Western culture, we don't really get an insight about this. But for me personally, the conflict between Islam and Christianity has been around for centuries, and especially as an outsider, it wouldn't be just for me to decide that Egypt should be ruled by Christians or Islam or whatever. So, is there anything we should do, considering it's in the global south, or, is there anything we can actually do? Thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed our presentation.